Welcome to Talent Pipeline Management Strategy 2, the Demand Planning Process. This module, we will focus on the role of demand planning in the TPM process, designing a data collection tool to share with your collaborative, and the type of data to collect for the strategy. And then how do you aggregate that data and then compare it to other data sources that you have available to you. Collaboratives come together because of a shared common pain points. The most common pain point is not being able to fill current job openings and the amount of time it can take to onboard a new hire. Employers have two employment tracks. New positions, which usually become available because of a company expansion, and replacement positions. Do not look at the replacement position solely as a result of a turnover. There are other reasons such as retirement, long-term medical leave, military deployment, to name just a few. Another common pain point is internal career advancement training for employees, turnover and the reason for it, and how they can retain their current employees. By increasing diversity and opportunities within a company, they can increase their talent pool. Employers should not rely on one recruiting strategy, but consider multiple strategies. The convener's role is to guide a collaborative through the demand planning process. The collaborative can focus on one particular position or look further down the road to predict all positions within the collaborative. Also take into consideration which of these positions, which ones are new and which ones are replacements. If the collaborative is looking at long-term planning, keep the timeline to 12 months. Reason being, there are unknown variables that could construe the data. COVID-19 is a prime example of an external game changer. For each position, track the requirements and acceptable education levels or credentials. This is one method to help diversify your workforce. You also want to track the skills required for each position. The convener will create a template to distribute to each member of the collaborative with the completion date to return. The convener will aggregate the data and present the results to the collaborative. Why do you not share the raw data? Because you have competitors within your collaborative and many do not want to share with their competitors or want them to know what their hiring needs are. Prior to releasing the survey, the convener should meet with all participants and provide an overview of TPM, address the confidentiality with the provided data, and how the results can assist in reducing one of the common pain point needs. In the past, workforce developers relied on state occupational projections and real-time LMI to predict what the hiring needs are going to be within a particular region. Today, Talent Pipeline Management allows us to take a more granular look at what our hiring needs are in a shorter time period within a particular region and working directly with the employers. When you have collected your TPM data, it's still a good practice to compare it to your state and occupational projections or your real-time LMI, but you should not rely solely on those resources. The reason being, TPM is set between a 12 and 18-month time period, where state projections are taken out over a 10-year time period. And they do not take into effect or into consideration your current economic development needs are within your region. Let's take a look at a snapshot of a demand planning survey completed by 5 collaboratives within one county. Each member of each collaborative received the survey with a timeline of 4 weeks to return the information to the convener. They were asked to identify the jobs by title, how many were new positions, how many were replacement positions, and the acceptable level of education and credentials for that job. We also asked them if they would share with us their top skill sets requirement. Some provided that information while others did not. Looking at line 6, the assembler production, there was a total of 35 positions needed within the next 12-month time period. The new position tells me a company was in expansion mode, and the replacement tells me that there is either a turnover problem, there is retention issues going on there, but for whatever reason that they need to replace those positions. For that assembler position, what was acceptable was a high school or GED, but they also accepted industrial tech and manufacturing tech certifications. And again, you can see the ability to learn technical skills is one of their top skill sets required for that job. Now let's go down to line 21. In line 21, the customer service representative actually represents 4 of the 5 collaboratives. As you can see, they needed 35 new positions and 31 replacement positions. The acceptable education levels was from one end of the spectrum to the other. The reason being that some of the industries required that master's degree, especially if they were the manager or the department head for that area. They also needed to include technology or business certifications. And as you can see, the top skill sets, some of them required medical knowledge. That was coming from a healthcare provider, or this information came from a back office service. It could have been from a hotel, or it could be from a receptionist area as well. So this is just a really quick snapshot of the information and how it can be used to further your workforce development needs. Let's take another look at the aggregate data broken down by specific collaboratives. This data was impacted from January 2012 to December 13th. As you can see from the manufacturing cluster, within that next year, they were going to need 735 positions filled, and that could be a combination of new and replacement. Some of them, according to the manufacturing cluster, for the engineers, for example, may require a state license. And then you can also see the overall top skills required. And this is a very broad view. When we get into a very specific job, such as a machinist or a maintenance tech, the collaborative will sit down together and identify those common skill sets that are needed for that position. Then they can take that information and share it with their education providers. For the healthcare cluster, they needed 509 positions. And again, across the board on their levels of education as well as their skill sets. The logistics cluster needed 348 jobs, and the IT business cluster needed 244. When you break down the information this way, then you can share it in a public format, but you can also share it with your individual collaboratives. As the convener, you are ready to start your demand planning process. But before you get started, think about these few things just as a reminder. Ensure you're collaborative about the confidentiality of each individual company data, that you will not be sharing it in a public manner. It will be locked, as you could say, in a safe, only for your eyes. You need to identify skill training opportunities and gaps at all levels of the spectrum, and identifying means to fill those gaps, creating awareness. When you start to have this information, then you're ready to meet with your education providers in order to make the necessary adjustments to meet your current demands. This concludes Strategy 2, Demand Planning. Thank you.